Hávamál, the Ballad of the High One. This poem follows the Voluspa in the Codex Regius, but is preserved in no other manuscript. The first stanza is quoted by Snorri, and 2 lines of stanza 84 appear in one of the sagas. In its present shape, it involves the critique of the text in more puzzles than any other of the Eddic poems. Without going into detail into the various theories, what happened seems to have been somewhat as follows. There existed from very early times a collection of proverbs and wise counsels which were attributed to Odin just as the biblical proverbs were to Solomon. This collection, which presumably was always elastic in extent, is known as the High One's Words, and forms the basis of the present poem. To it, however, were added other poems and fragments dealing with wisdom, which seemed by their nature to imply that the speaker was Odin. Thus, a catalog of runes or charms was tacked on, and also a set of proverbs differing essentially in form from those comprising the main collection. Here and there, bits of verse, more neatly narrative, crept in, and of course, the loose structure of the poem made it easy for any reciter to insert new stanzas almost at will. This curious miscellany is what we now have as the Hávamál. 5 separate elements are pretty clearly recognizable. The Hávamál proper, stanzas 1 through 80, a collection of proverbs and counsels for the conduct of life. The Lodfafsnismal, stanzas 111 through 138, a collection of somewhat similar to the first, but specific ally addressed to a certain Lodfafnir. The Lothatal, stanzas 147 through 165, a collection of charms. The love story of Odin and Billing's daughter, stanzas 96 through 102, with an introductory dissertation on the faithlessness of women in general, stanzas 81 through 95, which probably crept into the first poem and then pulled the story as an apt illustration after it. And the story of how Odin got the meat of poetry, the draught which gave him the gift of tongues, from the maiden Gunnloth, in stanzas 103 through 110. There is also a brief passage, stanzas 139 and 146, telling how Odin won the runes, this passage being a natural introduction to the Lothatal, and doubtless brought into the poem for that reason. It is idle to discuss the authorship or date of such a series of accretions at this. Parts of it are doubtless among the oldest relics of ancient Germanic poetry. Parts of it may have originated at a relatively late period. Probably, however, most of its component elements go pretty far back, although we have no way of telling how or when they first became associated. It seems all but meaningless to talk about interpolations in a poem which has developed almost solely through the process of piecing together originally unrelated objects and ends. The notes, therefore, make only such suggestions as are needed to keep the main divisions of the poem distinct. Few gnomic collections in the world's literary history present sounder wisdom more tersely expressed than the Hávamál. Like the Book of Proverbs, it occasionally rises to lofty heights of poetry. If it presents the worldly wisdom of a violent race, it also shows noble ideals of loyalty, truth, and unfaltering courage. Hávamál. Within the gates there a man shall go, full warily let him watch, for little he knows where a foe may lurk and sit in the seats within. Hail to the giver, a guest is come, where shall the stranger sit? Swift shall he be who with sword shall try the proof of his might to make. Fire he needs who with frozen knees is come from the cold without. Food and clothes must the farer have, the man from the mountains come. Water and towels and welcoming speech should he find who comes to the feast. If renown he would get and again be greeted, wisely and well must he act. Wits must he have who wanders wide, but all is easy at home. At the witless man the wise shall wink, when among such men he sits. A man shall not boast of his keenness of mind, but keep it close in his breast. To the silent and wise his ill comes seldom when he goes as a guest to the house. For a faster friend one never finds than wisdom tried and true. The knowing guest who goes to the feast in silent attention sits. With his ears he hears, with his eyes he watches, thus wary are wise men all. Happy the one who wins for himself favor and praise is fair. Less safe by far is the wisdom found that is hid in another's heart. Happy the man who, as while he lives, wisdom and praise as well. For evil counsel a man full oft has from another's heart. A better burden may no man bear for wanderings wide than wisdom. It is better than wealth on unknown ways, and in grief a refuge it gives. A better burden may no man bear for wanderings wide than wisdom. Worse food for the journey he brings not afield than an over-drinking of ale. Less good there lies than most believe in an ale of mortal men. For the more he drinks, the less does man of his mind the mastery hold. Over beer the bird of forgetfulness broods, and steals the minds of men. With the heron's feathers fettered I lay, and in Gunlöf's house was held. Drunk I was dead drunk, when with Fjalar wise I was. 'Tis the best of drinking if back one brings his wisdom with him home. The son of a king shall be silent and wise, and bold in battle as well. Bravely and gladly a man shall go till the day of his death is come. The sluggard believes he shall live forever if the fight he faces not. But age shall not grant him the gift of peace, though spears may save his life. The fool is agape when he comes to the feast, he stammers or else is still. But soon if he gets a drink it is seen, what the mind of a man is like. He alone is aware, who has wandered wide and far aboard has fared. Think how great a mind is guided by him that wealth and wisdom has. Shun not the mead, but drink in measure, speak to the point or be still. For rudeness none shall rightly blame thee if soon thy bed thou seekest. The greedy man, if his mind be vague, will eat till sick he is. The vulgar man, when among the wise, to scorn by his belly is brought. The herds know well when home they shall fare, and then from the grass they go. But the foolish man his belly's measure shall never know aright. A paltry man and poor of mind at all things ever mocks, for never he knows when he ought to know that he is not free from faults. The witless man is awake all night, thinking of many things. Careworn he is when the morning comes and his woe is just as it was. The foolish man for friends all those who laugh at him will hold, when among the wise he marks it not through hatred of him they speak. The foolish man for friends all those who laugh at him will hold, but the truth when he comes to the council he learns that few in his favor will speak. An ignorant man thinks all he knows when he sits by himself in a corner, but never what answer to make he knows when others with questions come. A witless man when he meets with men had best in silence abide, for no one shall find that nothing he knows if his mouth is not open too much. Wise shall he seem who well can question and also answer well. Naught is concealed that men may say among the sons of men. Often he speaks who never is still with the words that win no faith. The babbling tongue, if a bridle it find not, oft for itself sings ill. In mockery no one a man shall hold, although he fare to the feast. Wise seems one oft, if not he is asked, and safely he sits dry-skinned. Wise a guest holds it to take to his heels when mock of another he makes, but little he knows who laughs at the feast, though he mocks in the midst of his foes. Friendly of mind are many men, till feasting they mock at their friends. To mankind a bane must it ever be, with guests together strive. Oft should one make an early meal, nor fasting come to the feast. Else he sits and chews as if he would choke, and little too able to ask. Crooked and far is the road to a foe, though his house on the highway be. But wide and straight is the way to a friend, though far away he fare. Forth shall one go, nor stay as a guest in a single spot forever. Love becomes loathing if long one sits by the hearth in another's home. Better a house, though a hut it be, a man is master at home. A pair of goats and a patched up roof are better far than begging. Better a house, though a hut it be, a man is master at home. His heart is bleeding, who needs must beg, when food he fain would have. Away from his arms in the open field a man should fare, not afoot, for never he knows when the need for a spear shall rise on the distant road. If wealth a man has won for himself, let him never suffer in need. Oft he saves for a foe what he plans for a friend, for much goes worse than he wish. None so free with gifts or food have I found, that gladly he took not to gift, nor one who was so widely scattered his wealth, that of recompense hatred he had. Friends shall gladden each other with arms and garments, as each for himself can see. If givers' friendships are longest found, if fair their fates may be. To his friend a man the friend shall approve, and gifts with gifts requite. But men shall mocking with mockery answer, and fraud with falsehood meet. To his friend a man a friend shall prove, to him and the friend of his friend. But never a man shall friendship make with one of his foeman's friends. If a friend thou hast, whom thou fully wilt trust, and good from him wouldst get, thy thoughts with his mingle, and gifts shalt thou make, and fair to find him oft. If another thou hast, whom thou hardly wilt trust, yet good from him wouldst get, thou shalt speak him fair, but falsely think, and fraud with falsehood requite. So is it with him, whom thou hardly wilt trust, and whose mind thou mayst not know. Laugh with him mayst thou, but speak not thy mind, like gifts to his shalt thou give. Young was I once, and wandered alone, and naught of the road I knew. Rich did I feel with a comrade I found, for man is man's delight. The lives of the brave and noble are best, sorrows they seldom feed, but the coward fear of all things feels, and not gladly the niggard gives. My garments once in a field I gave to a pair of carven poles. Heroes they seemed when clothes they had, but the naked man is naught. On the hillside drear the fair tree dies, all bootless its needles and bark. It is like a man whom no one loves, why should his life be long? Hotter than fire between false friends, this friendship 5 days burned. When the 6th day comes, the fire cools, and ended is all the love. No great thing needs a man to give, oft little will purchase praise. With half a loaf and half cup filled, a friend full fast I made. A little sand has a little sea, and small are the minds of men. Though all men are not equal in wisdom, yet half-wise only are all. A measure of wisdom each man shall have, but never too much let him know. The fairest lives do those men live, whose wisdom wide has grown. A measure of wisdom each man shall have, but never too much let him know. For the wise man's heart is seldom happy, if wisdom too great he has won. A measure of wisdom each man shall have, but never too much let him know. Let no man the fate before him see, for so he is freest from sorrow. A brand from a brand is kindled and burned, and fire from fire begotten. And man by his speech is known to men, and the stupid by their stillness. He must early go forth, who fain the blood of the goods of another would get. The wolf that lies idle shall win little meat, or the sleeping man success. He must early go forth, whose workers are few, himself his work to seek. Which remains undone for the morning sleeper, for the swift his wealth hath won. Of seasoned shingles and strips of bark, for the thatch let one know his need. And how much of wood he must have for a month, or in half a year he will use. Washed and fed to the council fair, but care not too much for their clothes. Let none be ashamed of his shoes and hose, less still of the steed he rides, though poor be the horse he has. When the eagle comes to the ancient sea, he snaps and hangs his head. So is a man in the midst of a throng, who few to speak for him he finds. To question and answer must all be ready, who wish to be known as wise. Tell one thy thoughts, but beware of two, all know what is known to three. The man who is prudent a measured use of the might he has will make. He finds when among the brave he fares, that the boldest he may not be. Aught for the words that to others one speaks, he will get but an evil gift. Too early to many a meeting I came, and some too late have I sought. The beer was all drunk or not yet brewed, little the loadman finds. To their homes men would bid me hither and yon. If at mealtime I needed no meat, or would hang 2 hams in my true friend's house, or only one I had eaten. Fire for men is the fairest gift, and power to see the sun. Health as well if a man may have it, and a life not stained with sin. All wretched is no man, though never so sick. Some from their sons have joy. Some win it from kinsmen, and some from their wealth, and some from worthy works. It is better to live than to lie a corpse. The live man catches the cow. I saw flames rise for the rich man's pyre, and before his door he lay dead. The lame rides a horse, the handless is herdsman, the deaf in battle is bold. The blind man is better than one that is burned, no good can come of a corpse. A son is better, though late he be born, and his father to death have fared. Memory stones seldom stand by the road, save when kinsman honors his kin. To make a battle, the tongue slays the head, and each feathery coat a fist I look for. He welcomes the night whose fare is enough, short of the yards of a ship, uneasy are autumn nights. Full oft is the weather, change in a week, and more in a month's time. A man knows not if nothing he knows, the gold oft gapes beget. One man is wealthy and one is poor, yet scorn for him none should know. Among fitting sons saw I well-stocked folds, and now bear they the beggar's staff. Wealth is as swift as a winking eye, a friend is the falsest it is. Cattle die and kinsmen die, and so no one dies oneself. But the noble name will never die if good renown one gets. Cattle die and kinsmen die, and so one dies oneself. One thing now that never dies, the fame of a dead man's deeds. Certain is that which is sought from runes that the gods so great have made, and the master poet painted of the race of gods, silence is safest and best. An unwise man, if a maiden's love or wealth he chances to win, his pride will wax, but his wisdom never, straightforward he fares in conceit. Give praise to the day at evening, to a woman on her pyre, to a weapon which is tried, to a maid at wedlock, to ice when it is crossed, to ale that is drunk. When the gale blows hew wood, and the fair winds seek the water, sport with maidens at dusk, for day's eyes are many. From the ship seek swiftness, from the shield protection, cuts from the sword, from the maiden kisses. By the fire drink ale, over ice go on skates, by a steed that is lean and a sword wind tarnished. The horse at home fatten, the hound in thy dwelling. A man shall trust not the oath of a maid, nor the word a woman speaks, for their hearts on a whirling wheel were fashioned, and fickle their breasts were formed. In a breaking bow or burning flame, a ravenous wolf or a croaking raven, in a grunting boar or a tree with broken roots, in a billowy sea or a bubbling kettle, in a flying arrow or falling waters, in ice new formed or the serpent's folds, in a bride's bed speech or a broken sword, in the sport of bears or in sons of kings, in a calf that is sick or a stubborn thrall, a flattering witch or a foe new slain, in a brother's slayer if thou meet him abroad, in a half-burned house, in a horse full swift, one leg is hurt, and the horse is useless. None had ever such faith as to trust in them all. Hope not too surely for early harvest, nor trust too soon in thy son. The field needs good weather, the sun needs wisdom, and oft is either denied. The love of women, fickle of will, is like starting o'er ice with a steed unshod, a 2-year-old restive and a little tamed, or steering a rudderless ship in a storm, or lame hunting reindeer on slippery rocks. Clear now will I speak, for I know them both. Men false to women are found. When fairest we speak, then falsest we think. Against wisdom we work with deceit. Soft words shall he speak, and wealth shall he offer, who longs for a maiden's love, and the beauty praise of the maiden bright he wins whose wooing is best. Fault for loving let no man find, ever with any other. Oft the wise are fettered when fools go free by beauty that breeds desire. Fault with another let no man find, for what touches many a man, wise men oft into witless fools are made by mighty love. The head alone knows what dwellings near the heart, a man knows his mind alone. No sickness is worse to one who is wise than the lack of the longed-for joy. This found I myself when I sat in the reeds, and long my love awaited. As my life the maiden wise I loved, yet her I never had. Billing's daughter I found on her bed, in slumber bright as the sun. Empty appeared an earl's estate, without the form so fair. Odin again at evening come, if a woman thou wouldst win. Evil it were if others that we should know of such a sin. Away I hastened, hoping for joy and careless of counsel wise. Well I believed that soon I should win measureless joy with the maid. So came I next, when night it was, the warriors all were awake. With burning lights and waving brands I learned my luckless way. At morning then, when once more I came, and all were sleeping still, a dog found in the fair one's place, bound there upon the bed. Many fair maids, if a man but tries, false to a lover are found. That did I learn when I longed to gain, with wiles the maiden wise. Foul scorn was my meed from the crafty mind, and not from the woman I won. Though glad at home and merry with guests, a man shall be wary and wise. The sage and shrewd, wide wisdom seeking, must see that his speech be fair.
A fool is he named who naught can say, for such is a way of the witless. I found the old giant, now back have I fared, small gain from silence I got. Full many a word my will to get I spoke in Sutting's hall. The mouth of Rati made room for my passage, and space in the stone he gnawed. Above and below the giant's path lay, so rashly I risked my head. Gunnlod gave on a golden stool a drink of the marvelous mead. A harsh reward did I let her have for heroic heart and her spirit troubled sore. The well-earned beauty, well I enjoyed, little the wise man lacks. So Orthorir now has up been brought to the midst of the men of earth. Hardly methinks would I home have come and left the giant's land, had not Gunnlod helped me, the maiden good, whose arms about me had been. The day that followed, the frost giants came, some word of war to win. A bulwark they asked, where he back midst the gods, or had Sutting slayed him there. On his ring swore Odin, the oath methinks, who now his throat shall trust. Sutting's betrayal he sought with drink, and Gunnlod to grief he left.
It is a time to chant from the chanter's stool. By the wells of Urd I was. I saw and was silent, I saw and thought, and heard the speech of Or. Of runes heard I words, nor were counsels wanting. At the hall of Or, in the hall of Or, such was the speech I heard. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Rise not at night, save if news thou seekest, or fain to the outhouse wouldst fare. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Beware of sleep on a witch's bosom, nor let her limbs ensnare thee. Such is her might that thou hast no mind for the council or meeting of men. Meat thou hatest, joy thou hast not, and sadly to slumber thou farest. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Seek never to win the wife of another, or long for her secret love. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. If o'er mountains or gulfs thou fain wouldst go, look well to thy food for the way. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. An evil man thou must not let bring aught of ill to thee, for an evil man will never make reward for a worthy thought. I saw a man who was wounded sore by an evil woman's word. A lying tongue his death blow launched, and no word of truth there was. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, and great thy gain if thou learnest. If a friend thou hast whom thou fully wilt trust, then fair to find him oft. For brambles grow and waving grass on the rarely trodden road. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, and great thy gain if thou learnest. A good man find to hold in friendship, and give heed to his healing charms. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, and great thy gain if thou learnest. Be never the first to break with thy friend the bonds that hold you both. Care eats the heart if thou canst not speak to another all thy thoughts. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Exchange of words within a witless ape thou must not ever make. For never thou mayst from an evil man a good requital get, but a good man oft the greatest love through words of praise will win thee. Mingled is love where a man can speak to another all his thoughts. Naught is so bad as false to be, no friend speaks only fair. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. With a worse man speak not 3 words in dispute. Ill fares the better oft when the worse man wields a sword. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. A shoemaker be, or a maker of shafts, for only thy single self. If the shoe is ill made, or the shaft proves false, then evil of thee men think. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. If evil thou knowest, as evil proclaim it, and make no friendship with foes. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. And evil never, joy shalt thou know, but glad the good shall make thee. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Look not up when battle is on, like madmen the sons of men become, lest men bewitch thy wits. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. If thou fain wouldst win a woman's love, and gladness give from her, fair be thy promise, and well fulfilled, none lows what good gets. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou thy rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. I bid thee be wary, but not be fearful. Beware most with heir or another's wife, and third beware lest a thief outwit thee. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Scorn or mocking ne'er shalt thou make of a guest or a journey goer. Oft scarcely he knows who sits in the house, what's kind is the man who comes. None so good is found that faults he has not, nor so wicked that naught he is worth. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Scorn not ever the grey-haired singer, oft do the old speak good. Oft from shriveled skin come skilful counsels, though it hang with the hides, and flap with the pelts, and is blown with the bellies. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, great thy gain if thou learnest. Curse not thy guest, nor show him thy gate. Deal well with a man in want. Strong is the beam that raised must be, to give an entrance to all. Give it a ring, or grim will be the wish it would work on thee. I read thee, Lord Fafnir, and hear thou my rede. Profit thou hast if thou hearest, and great thy gain if thou learnest. When ale thou drinkest, seek might of earth, for earth cures drink, and fire cures ills. The oak cures tightness, the ear cures magic, rye cures rupture, the moon cures rage, grass cures the scab, and runes the sword cut. The field absorbs the flood. Now are Hor's words spoken in the hall, kind for the kindred of men, cursed for the kindred of giants. Hail to the speaker, and to him who learns. Profit be his who has them. Hail to them who hearken. I ween that I hung on the windy tree, hung there for nights full 9. With the spear I was wounded and offered I was to Odin, myself to myself, on the tree that none may ever know, what root beneath it runs. None made me happy with loaf or horn, and there below I looked. I took up the runes, shrieking I took them, and forthwith back I fell. 9 mighty songs I got from the son of Bolthorn Bestla's father, and a drink I got of the goodly mead poured out from Orthriel. Then began I to thrive, and wisdom to get. I grew, and well I was. Each word led me on to another word, each deed to another deed. Runes shalt thou find, and fateful signs that the king of singers colored, and the mighty gods have made. Full strong the signs, full mighty the signs that the ruler of gods doth write. Odin for the gods, Dane for the elves, and Dvalin for the dwarfs, Alsvith for the giants, and all mankind, and some myself I wrote. Knowest how one shall write, knowest how one shall read, knowest how one shall tint, knowest how one shall trial, knowest how one shall ask, knowest how one shall offer, knowest how one shall send, knowest how one shall sacrifice. Better no prey than too big an offering, by the getting measures thy gift. Better is none than too big a sacrifice. So Thund of old wrote ere man's race began, where he rose on high when home he came. The songs I know that kings' wives know not, nor men that are sons of men. The first is called help, and help it can bring thee in sorrow and pain and sickness. A second I know that men shall need who leechcraft long to use. A third I know, if great is my need, of fetters to hold my foe. Blunt do I make mine enemy's blade, nor bites his sword or staff. A fourth I know, if men shall fasten bonds on my bended legs. So great is the charm that forth I may go, the fetters spring from my feet, broken the bonds from my hands. A fifth I know, if I see from afar an arrow fly against the folk. It flies not so swift that I stop it not, if ever my eyes behold it. A sixth I know, if harm one seeks with sapling's roots to send me. The hero himself who wrecks his hate shall taste the ale ere I. A seventh I know, if I see in flames the hall o'er my comrades' heads. It burns not so wide that I will not quench it. I know that song to sing. An eighth I know that is all to all, of greatest good to learn. When hatred grows among heroes' sons, I soon can set it right. A ninth I know, if need there comes, to shelter my ship on the flood. The wind I calm upon the waves, and the sea I put to sleep. A tenth I know, what time I see house riders flying on high. So can I work, the wildly they go, showing their true shapes, hints to their own homes. On 11th I know, if needs I must lead to the fight, my long-loved friends. I sing in the shields and in strength they go, hold to the field of fight, hold from the field of fight, and hold they come thence home. A 12th I know, if high on a tree I see a hanged man swing, so do I write and colour the runes that forth he fares and to me talks. A 13th I know, if a thane full young with water I sprinkle well, he shall not fall though he fares mid the host, nor sink beneath the swords. A 14th I know, if fain I would name to men the mighty gods. All know I well of the gods and elves, few be the fools know this. A 15th I know that before the doors of Delling sang Throthrir the dwarf. Mighty sang for the gods and glory for elves, and wisdom for Raptatir wise. A 16th I know, if I seek delight to win from a maiden wise, the mind I turn of the white-armed maid, and thus change all her thoughts. The 17th I know, so the seldom shall go a maiden young from me. Long these songs thou shalt, Lodfafnir, seek in vain to sing, yet good it were if thou mightest get them, well if thou wouldst them learn, help if thou hadst them. And 18th I know, that ne'er will I tell to maiden or wife of man, the best is what none but one's self doth know, so comes the end of the songs, save only to her in whose arms I lay, or who else my sister is.